Hi, I'm Maggy Zerr. I'm enrolled in Matthew Kenney's Level 1 Fundamentals of Raw Cuisine starting October 26th of 2015. This is my final presentation. I live in Bright Creek, Alberta, which is 40 minutes west of Calgary towards Banff National Park, about an hour from Banff, and live in the country, in the trees and the hills. And my presentation today, the two recipes that I chose is based on a harvest menu. And up here in Canada, it's cold, it's snowy, summer is done, there's no more heat until the spring. So I chose something that's good for here because it's hardy people. We have farmers, ranchers, oil people, outdoors people, and everybody likes plain and simple fare. And right now in the farmers markets in Calgary, all the stuff that I chose and tried to choose is really abundant, mostly harvest crops. And we have lots of organic farms around here in southern Alberta. And we have 3 or 4 big markets that I like to frequent in Calgary. So the first recipe is called a harvest slaw. And this slaw is made with kohlrabi, which is right from here in Alberta. They grow big and juicy, and carrots, which is a it's a real fall crop, and they're abundant in the markets right now. Honeycrisp apples, which we get from our neighbors in British Columbia, picked in September and sent out here, and we know they're fresh and they're crisp, and they are from an organic farm. Also, there's pecans in there and some red flame raisins, which are my favorite for this slaw. I put a dressing on there, which is a butter or pecan butter dressing, and I make lots of nut butters, but this time I decided to make a pecan butter, and it's absolutely delicious. There's the fat in the butter and a little bit of lemon juice, which gives you your acid. I added a little bit of apple cider vinegar just to get it a little more zing, some salt, and mix that up and put it into my salad. Mixed it up. I was going to use a mold. It didn't work because I did a julienne, which is a larger julienne, which actually happened to be the biggest challenge for me was my knife skills. So I needed to do something that was going to challenge me some more. So so I've built it up, tented it, and with the dressing in it, it's the raisin gives it a little bit of a different texture in there from the crunch, and I like it, and I think it's really good. I've got a little bit of dressing underneath, and try to plate it on a really simple plate, which I've learned a lot, Matthew Kenney, and offset from my symmetrical ways, which I used to be. The second recipe that I did, which I didn't make, but we're still supposed to talk about it, was a roasted mushroom, and I chose portobello. I've used cremini when I was testing it, and some fresh green beans, which we get in the market right now, and parsnips, which are a favorite of Albertans, especially around Christmas time, especially around Thanksgiving. Everybody does parsnips all sorts of ways. Usually they're candied with lots of sugar and all sorts of stuff, which really isn't good for you. So I did a little bit of mix up with the mushrooms and the green beans with some tamari and a little bit of lemon juice and salt. Let it marinate for about a half an hour and put it in the dehydrator for 3 to 4 hours, soften it up and give it that warmth. And to go with that, like the mashed potato that everybody likes, I used a parsnip puree with a little bit of pine nut mixed together in it, and a little bit of salt, and put that in the food processor. And that also went into the dehydrator for about a half an hour, and that will be layered instead of putting it out on the plate like we usually do. A nice layer that I've learned from this class, and a different texture, different crunch, different taste with every single bite, which I thought was a really good thing, and I thought it was a real great main for this harvest menu. I also, when Christmas comes, I'm going to make a raw cranberry sauce, which cranberries are wonderful up here. We get them from British Columbia. They're coming in fresh right now all the time at the market, organic. Put that up in the blender with a little bit of orange and a little lemon juice, a touch of salt, and you've got your little bit of raw cranberry sauce on the side, which everybody seems to like. So you've got your warm meal, because at this time of year, when it's cold, us Albertans like something that's a little bit warm. So for the third course, I made a baobab with a candied coconut, ice cream tart. And since I've been making the ice cream with Matthew Kenney's, I've gone crazy. I love it. It's simple, it's delicious, and you can make whatever you want. I chose the baobab because it's such a wonderful superfruit. I buy it where I work at the Superfoods Light Cellar in Calgary, and it's so healthy, it's so nutritious, tons of vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, fiber, and that's not what I'm here to talk about, but I love the fact that they're teaching the women in Africa where these trees grow, to grow them, to harvest, and they're having their own business, and I think that's a fabulous, fabulous thing for them. Also in this recipe I incorporated a little bit of coconut flake, which I tossed in a little bit of our own birch syrup instead of the maple syrup, which is not quite as sweet. We have that right here in Alberta with, you know, prolific amount of birch, and put it in the dehydrator to make it a really raw application. Put that in at the end, and that was my ice cream. And on the bottom is just a simple tart, and it's again the coconut flake, but this time instead of the nut I used was Brazil nut, which has a little more fat, which made it a little softer and a little creamier. Put in a few dates to stick it together, a couple of tablespoons of raw honey, some lucuma, which is another great superfood, and again that tangy, citrusy taste with a little bit of maple flavor, smooths it out, adds a little bit of sweetness to it, and a touch of salt. Press it into the form and the base, and the two of them together are great. The baobab, the lucuma, I think it makes a super tart. I made a raspberry coulis. I went into my flavor pairing to find out what fruit would go good as a coulis for this baobab tart, and came up with raspberry, and I thought that was a great color to put in here. So I zipped that up in the blender and strained it all, and as we've learned in the course, spread it underneath the dessert so it's not overshadowing it, and you can have as much as you want. And just a little sprinkling of my coconut, a couple of fresh raspberries, and there you have it. This is absolutely not a dessert for one. It can be shared among the plate, and I think it's great.